Yes, this is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, UIT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. Man, it has been an incredibly long week, but we are at the end of another one. So, got some fun stories for you today, including Mike Pence having a photo op moment. Interesting. So, that's a lot of fun. It's gotten a lot of heat on social media, and we'll talk about it. And we're actually going to be a little bit fair to Mike Pence. What is going on here? Me actually being fair to
Mike Pounds.
What is going on? Yes, we're going to do that. We're all about fairness, right? Then we're going to talk about Donald Trump, and I'm also going to be fair to him. What is going on in this show? Holy crap. All right, so there's that. Then, of course, we've got unemployment that is ending in states that are beginning to open up, and what kind of impact that is having on some of the workers. We're going to at least tell the story of one of them, massage worker, and so we'll talk about that. We also have, of course, immigration. In case you might have forgotten, and it's very possible that you have, there are still unaccompanied minors showing up at the border. What is happening to those minors? What's going on at the border? We're going to talk about that. And then we have Auhmad Arbery. That was the black man that was killed for jogging. We're going to get some updates on that. So, yeah. All right. Got a good show lined up for you guys. So now before we get into it, update. So I've been doing a podcast on the weekends. Here's the thing, right? And we're not going to have one this weekend. So reason is that couldn't get somebody booked. Somebody that was supposed to be booked this weekend is actually booked for another week. So we're going to take the weekend and not have a podcast this weekend, but we will be doing it next week. We've got Mike Figueroa from the Humanist Report. He will be joining us next weekend, so wait for that to drop on Sunday. And then the following week, we've got Michael Brooks from the Michael Brooks Show. So that's fun. We have those two people locked in for the podcast. That, of course, is patrons first. So patrons get the podcast first before anybody else does. Call it, an exclusive, right? And then everybody else gets it later on. So that's fun. That's awesome. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. We're also working on getting the one and only John Iadarola to get on the show. I don't know if that's going to happen or when, but we're trying for it, scheduling and stuff. So that's more like backstage kind of stuff, right? Is that even the right way to say it? like backstage, but inside baseball, right? Even though I don't like do any sort of sports stuff, I think that's what they call it. So a little inside baseball on that, of trying to get people on board. Anyway, that's fun. So I'm really looking forward to doing those podcasts with some of those really great hosts. If you guys have any suggestions too, always feel free to tweet at me, or put things in the comments. My Twitter, of course, is at Jeff's Politics. So if you think that if you want to see somebody on the show, I can definitely work to try to get them to be on the podcast with me. We've had some great podcasts. We had Benjamin Dixon last time. We had Farron Cousins for the first one from Ring of Fire. That was a really, really fun episode as well. And so if you have any suggestions on who I should bring on the show or attempt to do so, and look, don't aim too high. It's not like I can get Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the show, even though I would definitely try. I will try to get who I can get. So yes, we're gonna have John. I will ask Emma as well. Get her on the show. So don't worry. I will be reaching out to a lot of people, to Kyle as well. Yes, I will also work on trying to get Kyle back on. I have talked to him before, and so we'll see if he's got some time to be able to sit down for a conversation. Should be fun. I really enjoy doing the podcast, so that's something that I love. Okay. All right. So a lot of great suggestions from you guys. Keep them coming. But before then, we'll get to the show. We'll get to some of the stories here. I just want to talk about this real quick. It appears that another person near Vice President Mike Pence has come down with coronavirus. Now, this is according to administration officials. A second confirmed case in Pence's office has been found, I should say, of coronavirus. So awesome. Now, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany confirmed the case at a press briefing, said the White House has put in place guidelines used to protect essential workers to keep those people safe. McEnany says, we have put in place the guidelines that our experts put forward to keep this building safe. Now, notice that there's a lot of guidelines that if the Republicans have their way, right, and the White House has their way, that would stop liability or protect companies from liability when their workers get sick with coronavirus. They can't get sued. So that's interesting how they have that. But no, we're protecting our essential workers. Are we? I don't know. It's the second person. And again, Donald Trump's, his valet, one of his valets had gotten sick, came down with coronavirus. So is it going around the White House or is it just hitting the staffers? We have no idea. I guess maybe we'll know in a couple of weeks, or maybe we won't. I mean, do you really think that anybody in the White House would be honest about whether or not they've got COVID-19? That'd be a little embarrassing. So who knows? We'll see. All right. That said, let's go into the first story. Have some fun. That was President Mike Pence getting caught in a little bit of an embarrassing hot mic moment, asking if he could carry boxes of what had personal protective equipment in them, but were now literally empty. Oops. Hilarious. Now, to be fair, Pence actually did deliver a couple of boxes, and I'll show you that because right now, Jimmy Kimmel is currently making fun of this, as are millions of people on Twitter, which is always fun. It's always fun to see. But there are right wingers that are like, check out the full video. You're taking context. How dare you? Okay, all right. Hold on. Calm down, guys. Calm down. We've got video showing that Pence did actually lift a box.
Yep, I got it.
Look at that. See? Context. Totally fair. That said, wow, he delivered 2 boxes. Congratulations. Wow. So now, Jimmy Kimmel, and I love this. Here's what he said. Mike Pence pretending to carry empty boxes of PPE into a hospital is the perfect metaphor for who he is and what he's doing. A big box of nothing, delivering another box of nothing. To be fair, one box did look kind of heavy. So, again, are we not the fairest, most bipartisan show in America? Where I'm like, oh, at least you lifted something. I mean, kinda. All right. Anyway, so now Biden's team gets into it, and we're having fun. This is the spokesman, Matt Hill, saying this. No, Mike Pence, the healthcare heroes on the front lines don't need you to carry the empty boxes just for the camera. There are more than 75,000 Americans dead, so they don't need your jokes. They need the personal protective equipment that's going to save lives. That's fair enough. U.S. Representative Bill Pascrell, New Jersey, tweeted this. You would be hard-pressed to find a better metaphor for the comically malicious incompetence of this failed government. Damn, Bill. Damn. So that's okay. So here's the thing, right? Now, this administration, they're making your show. This is nothing but a photo op. You guys know this, right? Everybody knows this. And yes, the Trump-Pence administration is not the only administration that has ever done a ridiculous photo op like this. So let's be fair about that, right? But here's the thing: he's delivering PPEs, and he's saying, by doing this, the message is, see, we're giving PPE. What are you guys complaining about? No, we're delivering the PPE to the people who need it the most. And look, let's be fair. This is a nursing home, right? They do need the PPE. Nursing homes have been hit especially hard by COVID, right? Nonetheless, the Trump administration has been taking PPE from other places. And perhaps some of this ended up in the place, in that van for this performative photo op. In fact, according to numerous healthcare officials and state leaders, they have reported incidences in which federal authorities have intervened on local agencies' agreements with PPE vendors. In several cases, state officials reported the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, confiscated supplies within last-minute deals with no explanation, while others reported the agency had outbid them for the equipment. They say that, they were directing these supplies to places with the highest need, but without any transparency about where that PPE is going, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, we do know the places with the highest need. Big cities, New York, LA, Boston, Seattle, places that they've had, are generally large cities. Those are hot spots, right? So now Unfortunately, that PPE doesn't seem to be getting where it needs to go because the federal government keeps swooping in and taking it. In fact, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti had told the New York Times that FEMA stepped in at the last minute of a deal the city had with one of its usual suppliers to buy 1 million masks. A New Jersey County official told local media an order of 35,000 N95 and other masks were quote-unquote commandeered by the federal government. And a leader of the private healthcare company Kaiser Permanente told staff members the company had found 20 million masks to purchase, but the feds actually seized that shipment before they were even able to acquire it, according to the Times. So we don't know what they're doing with this stuff. Now they say, well, don't worry, we're redirecting it to the places with the greatest need once we figure out where that is. Okay, but while we're waiting for you to do that, there are places that have ordered these masks and that have paid for these masks, right? Or tried to, that no longer have this equipment. Again, New York has a hell of a shortage. And so, look, that's a big issue, right? And we don't know, where exactly they're going to distribute it as well. Knowing the Trump-Pence administration, I would think that they would be delivering it to red state governors. And I understand that they have a need, and their need is significant too. But you want to deliver it to the places with the most need. The places with the most need are the places with the most people, which means bigger cities. And bigger cities are generally more blue. And let's be honest about that. In places like California and New York. So, but I think we see kind of where some of that at least is getting delivered. And that's unfortunately to places where Pence can get a photo op. And that's what this is about. But again, this isn't the only time that a politician has taken the time to do a ridiculous photo op for no reason. Now, the only difference here is that you have a pandemic and where these supplies are imminently needed. But other situations where you have ridiculous photo ops, or remember Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan at the soup kitchen, ladling out soup for like 2 minutes and then they're gone. So look, a lot of politicians do this. And there is a history of terrible photo ops for politicians coming in for a couple of minutes, doing a little bit, tiny bit of something, and then, all right, gone. You got the pictures, let's roll. They're disconnected from everyday Americans. The only person I could ever see actually going and doing something like that, not just going in for the photo op, but actually there's a couple of people that I would see doing that. One would be Jimmy Carter, right? Jimmy Carter is like 9 million years old, and he is out there still building houses for homeless people. Jimmy Carter would come in not to do a photo op, but this guy would be like, all right, what do we do? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to spend the whole day helping homeless people or, helping the elderly or whatever, right? I'm going to spend the whole day doing this. I don't care if there's a photo op. Yeah, if you want to snap a picture or two, that's fine. But we got stuff to do. We got work to be done. That's Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is a real person, right? This guy, he knows what's up. He would totally do it. The other person that I think would do it, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, look, we have numerous stories of him going and actually walking the picket line. I remember Barack Obama saying, hey, man, look, in Wisconsin, if we have this right to work stuff, I will grab my walking shoes and I will walk the picket line. Not once did I see Obama's walking shoes. But Bernie Sanders would actually walk that walk because he has as a sitting congressman. And so there again, those are the two people that I could see wouldn't do a ridiculous photo op like this. But Pence and Trump, you don't even see Trump out there. Remember his last attempt at photo op was him throwing paper towels at people in Puerto Rico. I mean, come on. Yeah, everybody knows that that would be an absolute disaster. That's probably why it's not happening. But most of these politicians, it just really shows how disconnected they are from the average American person, and how really everything that they do is just for the cameras, and is nothing more than performative art and BS. All right. All right, moving on. We are incredibly fair on this show. Again, Jimmy Carter's a real one, guys. You guys know. You guys know. He's there with the PPE. Don't say I don't say I don't see that. I read the comments. All right, moving on. President Donald Trump is actually being somewhat honest about the state of the economy in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. So now we have, we've got over 40 million, or nearly 40 million people that are unemployed now. And so he talked to Fox and Friends about this. And he said, quote, on the unemployment numbers, it's fully expected. There's no surprise. Now, this is after the Labor Department announced the U.S. has lost, just in April, 20 million jobs. The unemployment rate is now about 14.7%. That's worse than we had in the Great Depression. And look, if you're really to count all the people who have, who are unemployed but are unable to get those unemployment benefits through those, shoddy systems in many of these states, the number could easily pass 20%. So he's actually right about this, though, because it's a pandemic. What do you expect when there are many states that, enact social distancing measures and close down all non-essential businesses? You're going to have massive layoffs. You're going to have unemployment. It is absolutely unavoidable. And shutting it down, by the way, that was very smart policy because you don't want to overwhelm the healthcare system by spreading the disease. So it's kind of unfair to put all the job losses blame on Donald Trump when really we want people to not go out and work right now. What the government should be doing more of, and where you can definitely fault Trump on, is not doing enough to help the American workers stay home. So there's that, right? So now he followed this up by saying, somebody said, oh, look at this. Well, even the Democrats aren't blaming me for that. But what I can do is I'll bring it back, meaning of, jobs, right? Now, look, there's plenty of blame that you could put on Donald Trump, as I mentioned, right? For example, his incredibly disastrous response to this. You can also blame Republicans and corporate Democrats for using this crisis to shift trillions of dollars to the corporations and the wealthiest Americans. You can also certainly blame Republicans for not doing enough for regular working people to help them, weather this crisis, these closures, these unavoidable layoffs, these job losses, right? Now, that one-time means-tested $1,200 check, which still some people have not gotten, well, that was not enough. Of course it wasn't enough. We said it wasn't enough. Now, the White House says, well, we'll be open to another round of direct checks because we actually originally were calling for 2 rounds, right? But we decided, we only had enough bipartisan support for 1 round of these checks, right? Well, now the Republicans in Congress are saying, yeah, but, you think we're going to do another round of stimulus? No, our buddies already got everything. We already got everything that we wanted. Massive corporate bailouts. Oh, now you want to actually help regular people. Oh, no, we can't do that. Look at the deficit. Look at the $3 trillion we already put up. We can't spare another $250 billion to send 1 round of stimulus to the regular people. No, we already spent enough. Yeah, but the majority of that money went to the rich. It already went to the corporations. When it comes time to help the regular people, where the Republicans' priorities are. They have no interest in helping regular people. Their solution, of course, and this is backed up by the White House. Donald Trump has been urging this for quite some time. Republican governors, and you also have Republican politicians and right-wing figures and pundits all saying, no, the real solution here is to open up the economy. We've got to reopen the economy as quickly as possible, despite it not being safe to do so. That's the problem here. Everywhere in the country, you have cases of COVID-19 that are continuing to rise. I mean, and part of that is because testing becomes more available, right? We are doing more testing, despite the administration not wanting to do more testing and lying about doing the testing. In fact, he's like, oh, we don't need any more testing. That's Trump, right? He says, well, we don't need any more testing. We're doing enough. Despite the fact that Trump gets tested every single day. He's against mass testing. Why? Because it makes him look bad. If you have a lot of people that get tested, and as we expect, a lot of people will come down with COVID-19 right now, we have over 1 million cases in the United States. The true number is probably a lot higher. I can't tell you how much higher with any sort of accuracies, but I'm sure there are more cases. People who are asymptomatic, even though we have been doing social distancing. But you have to look in the states that are relaxing their social distancing requirements. Places like Florida that have a lot of people, a lot of people to go back to the beaches. Places like South Carolina have relaxed. Georgia, all these places that have relaxed their rules, those numbers are going to be much higher than anywhere else. So we have to do more testing. And so, look, along with more testing and along with more cases, you're also going to have more deaths. Right now, we're somewhere around 1,500 deaths a day. By June 1st, experts say it could double, especially as these requirements are being loosened in a lot of these states to 3,000 a day. Like I said, there's plenty of blame to go around. But I don't specifically blame Donald Trump as a direct result of the unemployment numbers, right? Because this is something that's beyond any president's control of, hey, we got to close down the economy. No, closing down the economy is the right thing to do. And we should close it down and should have strict requirements, right? All places, every state should be doing social distancing. If we all got on the same page, then we would actually get over this quicker. When you look at some of the countries in Europe that have done a better job at containment, you look at Germany. Germany was able to flatten the curve and do aggressive testing, and now they are slowly reopening. New Zealand, they were able to, quote unquote, eradicate this disease, and they're still doing social distancing measures, but are also slowly opening up. It's because they took the right actions at the right time. And I understand that there's a difference, of course, in population density when it comes to, New Zealand, which is a smaller population, Germany, which also has a smaller population, the United States. But nonetheless, you could still adapt some of the things that we've actually done, or they've actually done, into America and still instead of what we've done. Again, you look at a lot of these other countries, they have had generous income support for their populations to be able to weather this. We have not in America, which has fueled a lot of anxiety and a lot of people pushing to get back to work. Now, that said, this has nothing to do with the protesters. Protesters are people that are generally business owners or massive conservatives that want other people to get back to work for them. So understand the difference, right? In the protests versus people who legitimately need to get back to work, or feel like they're desperate. They don't have enough money. That $1,200 check did not, stretch enough. They can't get unemployment benefits, all that stuff. Even then, those people are still looking at this, at these lockdown orders, these stay-at-home orders, and saying, I still agree with them, even though I'm hurting very much so. So, nonetheless, We have Republicans pushing against this, pushing to reopen this country because they don't want to help their fellow man. And it's better for them. It's better for their donors, better for their stock portfolios. But here's the thing, right? The people, and this is where Trump is wrong, right? Because he said this, quote, those jobs will all be back. And they'll be back very soon. And next year, we're going to have a phenomenal year. People are ready to go. We've got to get it open safely. People are ready to go. The jobs are not going to come back that soon. No, we're going to be in this global depression for at least a few years. That's what I see. Things just don't open right up. It's not like a light switch. You can turn it right back on. So I don't know where he's getting this. You could call it naive optimism. And maybe that's the right way to do it because he doesn't know what he's talking about. But at the same time, you can also call it lies, right? But look, at the same time here, right? He's also saying people are ready to go. The people are actually not ready to go. According to a Pew Research poll, 68% of Americans are concerned about lifting the stay-at-home orders too quickly. This is mostly falling on partisan lines, by the way. According to another poll from Democracy Fund UCLA, 71% of people surveyed said they are worried that the restrictions are being lifted too quickly. 29% say that restrictions aren't being lifted quickly enough. And again, this goes geographically and this goes by partisanship, right? So you have more conservative Republicans in states that already don't have stay-at-home orders that are saying, let's go, let's lift it, right? But you have conservative Republicans in places that do have the restrictions. More of them are saying, no, we should be careful about this. But in both places, you have liberal Democrats that are like, no, we're lifting this too fast. We need to make sure to keep these in place until the medical experts say it's okay. And so that's a large majority of Democrats that say that. So now, why are these Republicans saying this? Well, it's because Donald Trump will go out on camera and say, we've beaten the virus. We've beaten the virus. It will disappear. It'll be gone. One day, it'll just go poof, and it'll be gone. And then we'll get back to work. We have to get back to work. Look, it's Trump's, again, dangerous naivete, dangerous stupidity, and a mix of conservatives, Republicans, social Darwinism. And that's what it is, where, profit, where greed is more important than humanity and human lives, right? That's the argument that's being made. And it's a gross one. So while Trump, of course, isn't to blame for all the job losses, he certainly does deserve the blame from a lot of the deaths so far and the ones to come as the country reopens before it's ready. And, of course, not only that, but in the inevitable prolonging of this entire economic crisis because he refused to do the things that he should have done first. Close down the country for a significant amount of time until we've all flattened that curve and then slowly reopen once we have mass testing. He hasn't done any of that, and that's why we have completely failed, or he has failed in this test of leadership. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. I'm going to thank some patrons and some channel members. We got more stories, so stay right here around the nation. Be back.
Mike Pounds.
Welcome back to the show, TYT Nation, around the nation here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right, so patreon.com/TYT Nation. Let's give a couple of shout outs to patrons. For one, I want to give a shout out to Gary, the guitar guy. So thank you, Gary, for signing up. It's a new patron, patreon.com/TYT Nation. That's how you help the show. And then another patron that I want to thank is Stanley. So thank you, Gary. Thank you, Stanley. I do appreciate you guys for signing up and helping to support independent progressive media. You guys keep us sustainable, you keep us healthy, and you keep us going. So thank you. Channel membership. Also, I want to thank Baby Faye and Nojo. So thank you. You can sign up to be a channel member by hitting the join button below. And a lot of super chats as well. And that goes to help the show. And it also makes you a part of the show. So Goku Lamborghini says, Mike learns how to lift boxes and hold load a dolly. Mother is proud. Calls his wife mother. Ugh. Still creepy. Will always be creepy. David Richardson says, well, it had to be a nursing home and not a hospital because that nurse burst Trump's bubble live on air. And two, it's a place with virtually guaranteed Trump votes. My wife works in a developmental home, and in some clients, she has seen that they do watch Fox News. So, that should be considered elderly abuse, allowing them to watch that stuff. But that's just my opinion. Morlangal Amathar says, so does Mike Pounds need mother to be present in order to deliver PPE to elderly women? Can
Mike Pounds
have that little self-control? I should have done that for the entire comment, but late idea. That's a great comment. And then Kathy Harvey asks, why is the DMV closing extended, but the hair salons are open? Because Karen needs a haircut. That's what it is. I know I just used the K word. How terrible of me. Should cancel me. All right. Anyway. Moving on, we got more stuff, including, of course, now someone who is considered to be essential and what effect that has on the unemployment. So. As the unemployment rate climbs higher than that of the Great Depression, Republican states have been quick to try to open, despite medical experts warning that a premature reopening will have a devastating effect on workers, on regular people, and on, of course, healthcare system. In fact, nearly 3 out of 4 Americans are concerned that their state will reopen too soon. And they tend to trust our country's medical professionals and their opinion on this, which, of course, is to wait to reopen until they have flattened the curve. So, that said, it hasn't stopped conservative governors from reopening places like Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina in order to stop people from receiving expanded unemployment benefits. Now, these are people like Tracy McFetridge. Now, she's a massage therapist in Springdale, Arkansas. And she stopped working in March after Governor Asa Hutchinson had ordered a halt to certain business activities, including, of course, nail salons, hair salons, and massage parlors, places where you have to be in very close proximity to your client, and in order to render their service. Well, seeing how coronavirus is spread through close contact with other people, you're able to get it from breathing in particles from the air when you're close to people. Well, that can present a bit of a problem when you're in close quarters with someone else. So understandably, a lot of those places were forced to close. Unfortunately, in a lot of these states, they have reopened massage parlors and nail salons and hair salons. So as a contract worker, McFetridge would normally have been not normally have been eligible for unemployment. Thankfully, thanks to the CARES Act that was signed into law, she had increased eligibility. It means that she, since she was closed down because of coronavirus, she was able to apply and receive unemployment. Now, I too am an independent contractor, so I understand that, right? We're not normally eligible for those benefits, but thanks to the CARES Act, people that have lost their source of income and are independent contractors are able to do that. And of course, Democrats fought to get that in. Now, as I've reported, many states have had some of their problems with their unemployment systems, some big, big problems. For example, Florida, you had a system that was set up and designed basically to fail. It was designed by former governor and now Senator Rick Scott in order to deny as many people as possible and to barely function. Now, because of this mass unemployment due to coronavirus, you have millions of people in Florida that are not able to get the benefits that they are entitled to. And this is happening in a lot of different places. And I said millions, it's millions around the country, but thousands, tens of thousands in Florida and other states. Now, despite closing down the economy back in March, McFetridge was finally able to file an unemployment claim because of that system, because of how bad it was last Friday. So all that time was spent trying to get through this system. That same day that she was able to file her first unemployment claim, Hutchinson announced that businesses could reopen. One of those businesses is massage therapy. Now she's going back to work. What made it worse, the state secretary of commerce, Michael Preston, said that anybody claiming unemployment who refused to return to their job could get in trouble. Quote, "That's a fraudulent claim for us, and we will be tracking that." The response, of course, and how McFetridge felt after hearing that was this, quote, "At that point, I knew they wanted people off unemployment." It's no surprise, of course, that conservatives would take that position because they don't really care about workers. They don't give a damn. In fact, here's Lindsey Graham saying that he would extend those unemployment benefits, those federal unemployment benefits, over his dead body.
What have we learned? If you pay people $23 an hour not to work, they will take you up on it. It doesn't mean they're lazy. It means if you're going to pay them $23 not to work, they'll probably take that over $17 to go to work, even though people like working. So July the 31st is when this expires, and I promise you, over our dead bodies, this will get reauthorized. We've got to stop this. You cannot turn on the economy until you get this aberration in the law fixed.
Can't turn on the economy without paying people less. And that's the real animus behind this, right? As these unemployment benefits with the $600 additional federal benefits are more generous than a lot of the workers normally take home. That's enough, of course, to make some of these workers think, well, wait a minute. If I'm making more, not risking my life and getting COVID-19 and then spreading it to my family, well, then hell yeah, I'm going to sit home. Well, but that's kind of the whole point. That's the whole point. You want people to stay home if they're not essential to limit the spread. I can understand essential, and we need to protect our essential workers, and unfortunately we haven't. But that's kind of the whole point of government in an emergency, and we are still in an emergency to provide for the people. And here's Lindsey Graham saying, no, we don't want to actually provide for the people. No, we're going to cut them off at the knees. Go back to work and put yourself in danger. There will be a huge spike in coronavirus cases as these states reopen too soon. So now, this week, McFetridge is one of those people that had to go back to work. Now, she gives massages, as I said before, and so she plans on taking her own safety measures, right? She plans on changing her shirt between clients, wiping down equipment as much as she can. But she says she's still worried. She's still concerned about her health. Quote, going back to work and coming back in contact with everybody else's bubble kind of makes me nervous. Then I understand. She also says that most of her clients have decided to stay home and stay safe. However, she said she's getting a new client and she's not exactly sure where that person's been, right? And what she's going to do. And so that's a problem, right? So not only, by the way, is she forced to go back to work at a massage therapist, right? Any new client she gets would be questionable because it's very possible that the people that are coming in as the state slowly reopens are the ones who had been calling for this in the first place. Do you really know or trust that these people had been doing proper social distancing or have been taking care of themselves to make sure they're not a spreader of coronavirus, or to make sure that they have been getting themselves tested if possible? Nobody knows any of this stuff. And so this is a huge problem. This is a very big problem. So now she will be getting some back unemployment, but at the same time, she is now ineligible for any more. And again, that is a big problem. Now, the U.S. Labor Department has said if somebody's employer wants them to come back, they're no longer eligible for those benefits. And this is if they work for someone else. If you're a contractor, you're generally considered a self-employed and will no longer also be eligible for those benefits if you're not actually affected by COVID-19. And that's what, of course, opening up these things will essentially lead to. So she has to go back to work. So another thing that Republicans are doing, other than just opening up the states and forcing people in dangerous positions to go back to work, is you have Republicans pushing for a bill to reduce the liability of corporations, to eliminate it if any of their employees get sick on the job. So that will allow companies to not be able to get sued by employees that contract COVID-19 on the job, meaning that these companies will not be able to protect, will not have to protect their employees because they know that if people get sick, well, that's okay. We can just get rid of them and hire somebody else, and they cannot come and sue us. And that's the thing. Now, when it comes to her situation, McFetridge, she's clearly not happy, of course, with their state reopening. She adds this, quote, the state should have played the wait and see game. All of that, I can definitely agree. All right. As the coronavirus pandemic continues to dominate the news, stories of what's happening at the border are essentially getting ignored. Now, it's not as if those stories aren't important. They're incredibly important. And so that's why I'm here to tell the story of Maria. And Maria is a pseudonym. Her name and the name of her son are being protected for, her, of course, their own protection. Now, they had fled Honduras. She had fled with her son to escape an abusive husband. This is a situation, of course, that we see a lot from people who have fled some of these countries, domestic abuse or abuse by the government or any of those issues, right? Now, she was denied asylum in the United States due to COVID-19. She's also being denied the ability to stay in Mexico due to her immigration case in the United States being expired. Her 10-year-old son, an unaccompanied minor that had turned himself over to U.S. authorities, has already been deported back to Honduras to go back to his abusive father. Now, Maria allowed Jesus to cross the border alone to go and turn himself over, thinking that he would be allowed to reunite with family in Texas. Unfortunately, They had not allowed him to do so, thanks to the pandemic. In fact, under the CDC recommendations, under the CDC guidelines, immigration officials have been empowered to deport more migrants, and they're using that power more often. And Jesus, of course, was placed on a deportation flight to Honduras within 4 days of encountering immigration officials. Maria told CBS News in Spanish, quote, "He was desperate. He wanted to be in the U.S. with his uncle because he did not want to go back to Honduras to suffer. I do not want to live with that man again so he can mistreat me," he told me. It's an incredibly horrible story, one that I think any parent could definitely understand, but one that we're probably going to see more of as the administration, as immigration officials use this crisis in order to tighten immigration. In fact, border officials have expelled thousands of unauthorized migrants to Mexico or their home countries and denied most asylum seekers the opportunity to request humanitarian protections created by Congress. And that, of course, is using their expanded authority. In the last 11 days of March alone, officials expelled at least 299 unaccompanied children under the public health order. Data from the U.S. refugee agency responsible for caring for these minors suggests that most unaccompanied children have been denied entry since the emergency order had taken effect. Now, the administration argues that this 1940s-era law is necessary to block the entry of migrants who could be carrying the coronavirus. And of course, what does that make you think of? A lot of the rhetoric surrounding some of these people coming into the United States, that they are dirty, that they are diseased. Well, the disease is already here. They say, though, that these migrants could cause outbreaks inside immigration jails that would overwhelm the public health system. Well, then perhaps we shouldn't keep them in jails. Perhaps we should screen them and then send them to their family members if they test negative for coronavirus. Well, that would be something that would actually make sense, but it doesn't fit along with Donald Trump's immigration agenda, which is to keep as many people out of the United States as possible. Jennifer Nagda, policy director at the Young Center for Immigrant Children's Rights, she told CBS News, quote, "The administration is using coronavirus and the pandemic as a cover for doing what it has always wanted to do, which was to close the border to children. There's no reason why unaccompanied children arriving at the border can't be safely screened and transferred to ORR custody, where capacity is an all-time low. If, of course, you have low capacity, it means people are able to socially distance." Look, she added, "There's no real public health justification for turning these children away at the border, and it absolutely violates federal law." And so, of course, these laws were the ones created to protect these unaccompanied minors. Under a 2008 law, border officials generally must transfer unaccompanied migrant children who are not from Mexico or Canada to the U.S. Refugee Agency within 3 days of apprehension, except, of course, in extraordinary circumstances. Border Patrol is arguing that this is an extraordinary circumstance, and I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, they're using this to enact a political agenda. Now, once in U.S. immigration law, there are other laws, of course, that protect them, and once under U.S. Immigration law dictates that unaccompanied migrant minors cannot be placed in fast-track deportation process known as expedited removal. It must be connected with legal services providers and child advocates. They're to be placed in the least restrictive shelters and facilities. Jesus, however, was deported within 4 days, fast-tracked, using coronavirus as a way to get him out of the country. U.S. law also stipulates that unaccompanied children can have their asylum applications decided by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services rather than an immigration judge, who couldn't do this, of course, in person. Migrant minors, unlike adults, also have other avenues besides asylum to seek safe haven in the U.S. Those who can prove they have been neglected, abandoned, or abused by one or both parents can request special immigrant juvenile status, which creates a pathway for U.S. citizenship. The situation with Jesus should have led to him being on that pathway. But because of COVID-19 and the emergency order, the Customs and Border Patrol and immigration agents, well, they're using that order in order to try to keep children out of the country. You also have the Flores Settlement, 1997. It stipulates that minors must be detained in safe and sanitary facilities, and the government must make a continuing effort to release them to qualified sponsors. Jesus, of course, had relatives in Texas, family members that would be able to take him. Here you see the Trump administration flouting every single law and protection for this young family, for this young man, to be able to stay in the country. They have used this crisis to be able to kick them out. And they are kicking out hundreds of unaccompanied minors, sending them back to their countries, and in many cases, back to their deaths. It's absolutely wrong. Pablo Rodriguez, an attorney at the Refugee and Immigration Center for Education and Legal Services, who now works with unaccompanied minors in immigration custody, said children fleeing to the U.S., quote, are still in need of protection, even during a pandemic. Quote, just because there is a pandemic going on does not mean the reasons the children flee, the reasons why people are coming to the United States have changed. They are still fleeing gang violence and a lot of other push and pull factors still at play. Nagda adds this in, quote, what's most terrifying about the situation is the complete dereliction of any sense of either our legal obligation or moral obligation to the very vulnerable children who are coming to our borders. We have no idea who these children are and have no idea where they're going. And that's unfortunately what's going on. We have a government that is using this crisis to further an anti-immigrant agenda. It is monstrous, but also completely on brand from what we've seen within the Trump administration. For her part, Maria, unfortunately, is going to head back to Honduras because that's where her son has gone. She says, quote, yes, I'm scared to go back, but my son is there now. What can you do? Whatever happens to both of these individuals, squarely on the administration now for denying this child protections under its own immigration law. And will they get punished for this later? This administration is clearly using this pandemic for racist memes. We have no idea. Unfortunately, when it comes to the history of abusing the powerless, generally those people don't tend to get punished at all. Okay. Moving on. Two men have now been arrested for the death of Auhmad Arbery, a black man who was shot in February while jogging through a neighborhood in Georgia. Gregory McMichael, 64, and Travis McMichael, his son, 34 years old, were both arrested Thursday and charged with murder and aggravated assault for killing Auhmad Arbery. Now, Arbery was running through a South Georgia neighborhood at about 1 p.m. on Sunday in late February, and according to police reports, the McMichaels, both white, said they believed he looked like a suspect in a string of robberies. Why did they come to that conclusion? Black. They reportedly then grabbed their guns, .357 Magnum and a shotgun, pursued them, and confronted him in the street, attempting to do what they called a citizen's arrest. Well, a citizen's arrest of a black man who fit the description. Now, an altercation broke out, of course, as what you would expect would happen when two thugs basically approach you with guns drawn. And, of course, Travis McMichael ended up shooting and killing Arbery, according to police. Now, this gained a lot of attention after a cell phone video went viral of what happened, the confrontation. But before then, well, it took some time for anything to happen in the case of Auhmad Arbery. They really kind of sat on their hands in this one until that video. Now here's the thing about that, right? All he was doing was jogging while black. But that's apparently enough in Georgia for these white men to get scared and grab their guns. Even the officer they had called, the dispatch, had said, is he doing anything wrong? They apparently couldn't answer that question with anything other than he was black. But in America, you don't have to be doing anything out of the ordinary for you to get shot if you're black. I could walk down the street. I'm very pasty white. I could jog. I could openly carry a weapon. Nobody would bat an eye. But be a black man and do something completely normal, you get harassed, police called on you, perhaps even shot and killed. Understand, it is good that these people were arrested, charged. That charge is murder, which I think has a very high bar to prove. You have to prove, in order to get somebody convicted of murder, that they had originally the intent to go and murder them, which could work in favor of these two gentlemen. I'm not a legal expert by any means, but based on what I've seen before, generally when you charge really, really high, you have more to prove. So I understand, though, that this arrest would not have happened had we not seen that viral video, that damning cell phone footage. Now, I'm not going to show it to you. Likely you've already seen it, and if you have, you know it's brutal. It's incredibly difficult to watch. The fact that it's so brutal and caused such an outrage is why they've been arrested now. But remember, this happened in February. Why so long? I mean, had it been a white person who had been shot, immediate arrest, an immediate investigation. It turns out one of the reasons that they refused to arrest the people who had shot and killed him is that Auhmad Arbery was first considered a suspect in his own death. Yes. I'm going to go here to an article written by Benjamin Dixon Show. And he said this. He said, for Auhmad, the association not only led to his brutal killing, but it also initially meant his killer not being arrested. It took more than 2 months for the father and son duo to be arrested. When explaining why they were not charged immediately, the district attorney, George Barnhill, immediately stated that the victim, Auhmad Arbery, was in fact the criminal suspect. He said, quote, it appears that Greg and Travis McMichael's intent was to stop and hold this criminal suspect until law enforcement arrived. Under Georgia law, this is perfectly legal. Dixon, of course, is unfortunately right in that we have Georgia that has, their own laws on self-defense and a lack of hate crime laws and the ability for these men to go out and try to do a citizen's arrest. It is unfortunate and incredible that it took 2 months and that now people are going out and attempting to justify the murder of this young man by digging up anything they can on his past. There's only one type of person that does that, and I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out who that is, what kind of person that is. Now, I have very little faith in the justice system. We just say that. Especially in southern Georgia, especially anywhere in America when it involves the death of a black man. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow they find a way for one or both of these men to serve less than what they deserve. That's just me. I hope I'm wrong. But unfortunately, years of watching white men get away with literal murder against black men, and like in this case, I'm incredibly cynical. And that's unfortunate. It really shows the state of, law enforcement when it comes to how they treat black bodies versus white bodies in this country. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Sign up. Be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation, or become a channel member by hitting the join button below. We are still doing a patron drive. We want to get to 400 by the end of the month. We are at 376, so we have quite a ways to go. So sign up, help the show. Thank you guys, and have a good weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Remember, change begins with you. Good night, guys. Much love. We'll see you on Monday.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.